Your room was dark. The only light was coming from the glowing playing card patterns on your fur and the green glowing star stickers that were stuck to your ceiling. You only blinked slowly, as if every successful blink would teleport you to a new place. A strange comfort filling your chest whenever it didn't occur. After all, this place had no rules. Outside of no swearing, that is. And that was as comforting to you as it was terrifying. The bed you were lying in, however, was as comforting as a real one, maybe a tiny bit more. Sometimes it felt as if you were slipping right into it. You stretched out one arm to look at your hand. Still just seams and chitin. The all-familiar clacking and creaking of your protective shell as you fell into the air. You accepted this reality a while ago, and you still weren't used to your new hands. Just 3 digits, uncanny and plastic-like. Sometimes you could still feel your missing ring fingers. As if in trance, you turned your head to the right, the veil of your bed giving the cartoony dark room a comforting silhouette. Kane might be an insane I have no mouth and I must scream AI thing, but he knew how to make a good bedroom. So good, in fact, it had become the only place you felt sane. Of course, only after removing and or covering every reflective surface. You couldn't stand the visage of what you had turned into. In here, the hours felt like days and the days felt like years, but at least it was quiet, and you could just stare, daydream. Not that you could actually sleep in this world. All human needs just didn't exist here after all. And maybe if you had been described this colorful nightmare in the real world, you may even have seen this as a sort of heaven. Though then again, this nightmare being involuntary seemed to be the point. Your eyes suddenly focused on the shadow of feet from behind your room's door. They stopped right in front of it. It wasn't Kane. He would just plop up in if he so desired. So, it could only be Jax. The rabbit man had flunked a bet he had with Ragatha, and so he had become the permanent messenger to you. He hated it at first, but he sure loved messing with you, so he begrudgingly accepted it. Jax meanwhile knew that you had seen him. You always did. You had this 5th sense that no one else had of people being outside your room. He was just standing there in front of the door with a devilish grin. He knew you'd be dying to hear any news from outside, even if you pretended you didn't. Not to mention, you definitely could not fall into another of your daydreams while a person was about to enter, making this a little torturous too. With narrowed eyes, you considered for a moment getting up on your feet, but the thought of hearing your body move was too revolting, and seeing it in the light was even worse. You'd probably break out in tears right then and there. After a few minutes, the rabbit finally placed his paw on the doorknob, entering it with a little pep in his step. "Hey, Tiptop!" he laughed nonchalantly, turning on the light in your room, making you hiss. He stepped over scattered toys and lettered blocks, stopping right in front of the curtain of your bed. You saw his silhouette and the devilish yellow grin. His hands on his hips, he stood there like an angry parent. You know, Tiptop, if you just stay here all day, this will never end, right? You could just stop coming, Rabbit, you barked. You could just stop coming, Rabbit, you barked. Oh, you're hurting my heart. Did he even have one? You clearly just saw him kick down your blocks on purpose. And you saw his hands take hold of the veil's opening. Embarrassed, you crawled under your blanket as he ripped it open. Ah, come on, Tippy Toppy. You know that doesn't stop me, right? He grabbed your blanket and threw it away. Cowering against the wall, you sat there, shivering with closed eyes. I'm not going to leave. Please don't look at me. Jax rolled his eyes. Fine. He took the bait. Sitting down on the bed next to you, he spoke. You do realize your situation isn't as terrible as Zobal's, right? And even she is running around out there. You know, helping. He hated being nice. He really did. But it did get a reaction out of you, as you finally looked at yourself. Here your name was Tiptop, and your formerly human body had taken on the appearance of a somewhat humanoid moth. Your face was like that of a cartoon character. You had quickly realized that your red clown-shaped nose and painted-on playing card symbols were part of your face and body, and unable to be removed or washed away. Zubal once called you a sad clown bug because of them. White, pink, puffy fur covered your shoulders, neck, and chest. A pair of wings that didn't work. You had been draped around you like a rope. Your eyes were entirely black. The chitin that made up your body was a pleasant white with orange highlights. You had antennas that were super sensitive, making loud noises at least 3 times louder than they actually were. And you practically always felt a strange desire to eat cloth. Hence why there were little bite marks and small holes all around your bed. The texture was just too good to pass up in your new form. It was quite addicting, actually. Jax rolled his eyes again. Honestly, he felt as if you had won the lottery with your appearance. In weak moments, he'd even consider calling you cute. Well, maybe that's why he still came to this place of dreariness, with your negativity and all. There's a new character, her name is Pomni. You'll probably like her, acts just like you did when you first came here. Curiously, you ask, what does she look like? Jax blinked, scratching his chin. Like a little jester toy. You know, a hat that's stuck on her head with little bells, silly shoes, baggy pants. Pomni had sat next to him at the dinner table after a jolly good introductory adventure, so he got quite a good look at her. She's a riot. You placed your chin on your pulled-up knees. You think you wanna see her? He sounded more encouraging than he intended, so he needed to follow it up with an insult immediately. Are you chicken? The way Jax dealt with the entire situation of being stuck in the Digital Circus was by simply being rude and dismissive. Cruelty made him feel like he had control over the situation, even though he absolutely did not. Sighing, Jax reached into the pocket of his overall and pulled out a sweet bun. Here, I got you some grub. You looked at him for a moment, before accepting the treat. Of course, food was not required in the digital world, but it was a good way to skip some time. Got you to do something, and it actually tasted quite good. Even though it looked like low-poly Bethesda game prop food. You could feel your eyes widen in delight as you bit into the sweet bread. Jax, meanwhile, sat there, waiting for you to finish, with a bright grin, before finally saying, "Oh yeah, before I forget, cough more abstracted." You're right, I twitched in response to that. What? He abstracted. Saw it with my own 2 eyes. Your right hand shook. That commotion outside earlier, that had been him? Without warning, you gripped the bunny's throat, choking him. "No! Tell me you're lying!" Jax coughed. "Stop that immediately! You got abstract too!" Your grip loosened just a little, but yet you still were gripping him tightly. "I don't know what happened, alright? He was just abstracted when I entered his room. You know, to talk about the exit." You let go of Jax, turning away from him. "I like cough more," you whimpered. "Wait, you're serious?" You nodded. His jokes were hilarious. "They were terrible." "No, they were not," you hissed. "You guys just didn't understand his humor. You were supposed to laugh at how terrible the things he was saying were, not actually laugh at the things he was saying. That's literally the definition of gallows humor." You gripped your antennas tightly for comfort. Damn it, we're all going insane." Jax rolled his eyes again and placed a hand on your back. "Come on. I too thought Kanger would abstract next, but you haven't abstracted yet, so everything's fine." You look down at your feet, those terrible clawed feet. Part of you wishing you were abstracting right this second. Finally, Jack's hand gripped the fur of your back, tugging at your fluffy body to force you to look at him. "It's all gonna be alright." You bit your lower lip. "Please, just accept me being nice. It really hurts my brain, you know." "Were you trying to be nice?" He shrugged. "Sure. I'm going to be nice just for this little bit." "Sure, but I'm only gonna be nice just for this little bit we're doing. Then I'm gonna be normal again." You suckled on your tongue as you thought about what to say next, until an awful idea came to you. Without saying anything, you crawled out of your bed, past Jax. But as he tried to stand up, you pushed him back down. "You stay here," you ordered. He shrugged. First, you took 2 steps and stretched. You haven't left your bed in days, your body creaking and cracking as you did so. It honestly hurt a lot, but that was because you haven't moved in such a long time. And so you stepped over to your door. Gripping a nearby sofa, you pushed it in front of it. "Alright, mind telling me what you're doing?" "Just want to make sure you can't back out." "Back out of what?" You approached him, unfolding your wings, presenting your body. And that's when it dawned on him. "You really think I'm going to make out with an insect?" You sat down on his lap, pushing your entire being against him, your fluffy, soft body. Yes, you whispered into his ear. Because you want to be nice. Remember? So I don't abstract. Oh boy. He laughed and was about to push you away, but as he did, his hand was swallowed by a fur. And his hand touched something round, that perfectly fit into his palm. With a flushed face, upon realizing what he was touching, he chuckled, as you didn't resist or recoil. Well, if you're this forthcoming. Well, if you're this forthcoming, I oblige. Finally, with his consent, you let yourself fall against him, your faces crashing as you began to devour his lips eagerly and needy. Jax's eyes rolled back as you felt your tongue slip past his lips. Thanks to your body, it was a long tube now that swiftly wrapped around his thick, more normal one. His eyes wide in surprise, not expecting this. It felt incredibly good though, and something he didn't see coming. A honey-like substance secreted from it that was completely blowing his mind. And after the thick golden liquid trickled down his throat, he was done. All resistance dropped. He was enjoying this too much. Your fingers slid down his slender body, scratching, pinching. It was a pleasurable sort of pain he did think possible. With your long tongue still in his mouth, he pulled away just a little and chuckled. Man, you're such a freak, and I like that. You grinned, pulling him back in, huffing a quick, good, before opening up the two buttons of his overalls.
Thank you to the people who are supporting me on Ko-fi. You guys are keeping me alive.